Good.
You can.
It's 7 o'clock. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. We are live on the Two Smart Fellows podcast, vlogcast, webinar. I don't know how you want to categorize us. And can you hear me, Fabian?
Awesome. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, awesome. We're live, 7 a.m. UK time, 3 p.m. Singapore time on this Friday, November 24, 2017. Welcome one and all. Welcome, my liebe Wolfbjörn.
Thank you very much for having me again for episode 2.
Yeah. Well, what are we talking about today? What's the format? What are we going to chat and discuss apart from my little tangents and my just a quick story, probably, which always clutters our conversation.
Google, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we should look at what some of our viewers have actually posted for us over the last week. There were some comments around, hey, what can we actually do if we're not one of the big brands?
Yep, definitely ready for that. Definitely.
And I think there was one question in particular, which kind of leads us to just talk about small hoteliers and what they can do in today's distribution landscape world, with putting a spotlight on them.
Yes.
How does that sound, Mr. Munoz?
Absolutely. I'm also, I think, is it me? Yeah, I'm going to do a spotlight on a startup.
Cool.
Which is very, very exciting. I'm looking forward to sharing that. And then we're going to demystify the concept of real time. What does real time actually mean? We need to be real time. What does that actually mean in the hotel online distribution world? And you also have some stuff to talk about in terms of what you saw in the news this week. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to have a look. One of the things caught my eye, and I wanted to bring it back into the spotlight because it was clearly about small hoteliers. And I think depending on the outcome of what happens, it can be either very, very good for small hoteliers or really nothing will change.
Yes. Well, I'm looking forward to chipping in with my 2 cents on that one. I got some very strong opinions on this concept of rate parity and blah, blah, blah. But before we start, Fabian, how was your week? You're in Singapore,
Fantastic.
Right? You're in Singapore?
I was Singapore this week. Next week, I'm in Florence at BTO. So anybody coming to BTO next week, I look forward meeting you guys there.
I'm jealous.
It's going to be fun and game.
You're going to have a lot of, well, anytime you're in Italy, you know better than me, the food, the cuisine is a whole other level. So I'm jealous of you for that.
I asked my wife if I can send her a picture, if that would be mean.
No, you must. Instagram it, tag her, Facebook it.
Instagram by cappuccino.
Yeah. Well, no. Not cappuccino, not in Italy. No. Espresso.
Standing up.
You're standing up with a little water chaser. Nice. I'm in Dublin. And
so you're going to have a Guinness.
I had one last night. Checked in, got my stuff sorted, and then straight away to the pub. I'm staying at a pub, a small hotel, so to speak. And yeah, had a lovely Guinness and an Irish experience. And it's lovely. I enjoy Dublin. I love the Irish banter. Actually, I think they say crack. That's the term they use here. But it's not spelled crack. It's spelled C-R-A-I-C, I think. But it means banter.
Okay.
Anyway.
Okay.
Let's get into it, shall we?
Let's do it.
So you had a question last week. We had a question last week from Zori. Hey, Zori. Thank you for asking.
Zori, you said you're going to be online, so we thought we're going to directly put you into the spotlight.
Exactly.
Thanks for the question.
Exactly.
Essentially, you said, what can small hoteliers really do, or how can they offer the best price? And is there technology, or what technology should they actually be using in order to compete against the big boys, right?
Exactly.
I think the first one is about visibility, right? And you want to tell us a little bit about the visibility, what you can do?
Exactly. And I think one way, the first thing I thought about when Zori I posed this question was that you can have the best product, the best hotel, the best offer, but if people don't know you exist, then it's very difficult to communicate that value proposition, communicate how easy it is to book directly if you're not visible. So what I'd like to start with, and let me just come out of this screen just now and go into Google to start with. Last week, remember, we talked about how a lot of people think about their booking. We think detail and granular. Booking.com versus Expedia versus Trivago versus direct website and Booking Direct. Like that's how we speak and that's how we understand distribution. But for a lot of people, they just go to Google. And so Zori's in where is he? Pune, I think. So if I type in Pune hotels, or that's
by the way, your little story about Google had about 500 views since last week. Fantastic.
Nice. Well, I think people can resonate and can relate to that, right? So I want to travel to Pune. I might type in hotel in Pune. Top of the page here, Booking.com, Expedia, Trivago. And so it's obviously for the small hotels and any even larger hotels, very difficult to be here top above the fold.
There's no point. There's no point in bidding on those things.
It's prohibitively expensive, and hotels are not marketing engines. So these guys are marketing platforms, marketing beasts. However, this is a nice little map, part of the Google ecosystem. And so if I click in this map, because for me, definitely, I don't use Google so much myself. I use Trivago, and I'm going to show you the example in Trivago. However, I'm now looking at a map of Pune, and I've got prices all over the place. And so every hotel, whether you're a small hotel or whether you are a large hotel, big chain, you're already on page one of Google. Within the map, let's call it Google Maps, because it is Google Maps, but it's now a visual representation of properties via either a map interface that I've enabled now, or a list. So I could look at different properties, and I'm not here to teach or explain how Google Maps works. It's pretty obvious. However, I said to you before, my personal preference is Trivago, and I'll show you why. So I do the same thing, hotel in Pune, search for hotel in Pune, okay. Defaulting to this weekend, that's fine. A double room, okay, that's fine. And you see the default here is to sort by popularity, but we were talking about small hotels. So if I apply a filter of 3-star, I could do 2-star, but let's just apply a filter of 3-star. And remember, I'm a very visual person, so I'm going to click on the map interface. And this is exactly how I search for properties in London or anywhere I'm going, just to visualize what part of town do I need to be in. And then let's zoom in a little bit here. And I don't know if this is the...
So you're essentially looking where the concentration of hotels is.
Yeah, the location of properties, but you see what I like here is it's a very clean visual of not just the price, but also the reputation score. So it's a value out of 10, and it's nicely colored. So green is above the threshold here. You can see red would be a disaster. 8.5 and above is let's say the highest filter. But for me, it's more about the location. And then if there's a couple of different contenders there, then I might decide. I mean, the pricing is obviously always a consideration for everybody, but also reputation. And is there really a big difference between 7.1 and 7.3? I don't know. Fabian, is there? Is there, apart from 0.2 is the difference, not the numerical value, what is the impact on the guest? Because I mean, really, did one person 3 weeks ago have a bad shower experience and that brought it down from 7.1 to 7. Well, from 7.3 to 7.1? Have you done much look into that? Have you looked at that much?
No, there was a study done by Cornell University a couple of years back that looked at the bubbles on TripAdvisor.
Okay.
And they essentially said that each of those bubbles give you about a 14% better chance of conversion. I think it was 13.2%. So i.e. if you get 100 on, those bubbles, you know those 5 bubbles on TripAdvisor?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So essentially what they're saying is the study found that if you have one of those bubbles filled, that means that your conversion ratio goes up from 1 to 14. So essentially, that's a good thing because you get more people booking you.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing that it said is that you can charge over time up to about 11% more for your rooms because you're getting a stronger value perception rating, so to speak.
Yes.
But again, you're talking here out of 10, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have the comma 1, comma 2, comma 3, comma 4. What they have is 4 bubbles, 5 bubbles. So essentially they only do half bubbles and full bubbles. Okay. So it's a bit more interesting for me to say, do I have 3.5 or 4? That makes a difference for me. 4.5 to 5.
True.
For me, it doesn't make that much of a difference anymore. But
yes.
Somebody having a 7.1 versus a 7.2.
And in this, and in this visual, they're both orange. I think the objective is to be green. Green is good. I think that's what the visualization of this data is.
Yeah, but look at the 7.4, right? The 7.4 at the moment is clustered the same orange as the 7.1. So you're better, but you're still considered no good.
Yeah, exactly. I think it gets green at 7.5 and above, which for me is reasonable. You might have obviously all have different standards as consumers in terms of, am I prepared to rough it because this is a weekend away with the boys and we just need to be near the venue, or this is a family experience. This is needs to be nice. I need to be reasonably confident this won't be a disaster. So I need 8.5 and above. Do you know what I mean? I think it's all very relevant to not just the individual, but what are the circumstances for the travel?
I agree. I think for coming to the small hoteliers, for them, it's giving them the best shot every time, right?
By the way, I challenge you. What is the lowest price? And I'm not talking about comp. What's the lowest price you've ever paid for an overnight accommodation stay? Do you know?
I work for Tune Hotels, mate.
No.
I paid
not comp.
9 ringgit.
9?
I paid 9 ringgit. 9 ringgit, that's $2.
Okay, you beat me. I thought I was going to win that. I paid 5 USD was the lowest I've ever paid.
No.
Property in Cambodia. And it wasn't, I mean, that's just the lowest price I can remember paying. But unfortunately, the room didn't have its own bathroom. And in the middle of the night, I needed to go to the bathroom. So, quickly got dressed and ready and walked out to the bathroom area. And there were people.
You got dressed?
Well, yes. That's too much information for many people, but yes. I got appropriately attired to go into public space. Let's say public areas, and it was one of those places where your flip flops. I say flip flops because I can't say thongs anymore.
Yeah, no.
Because in the UK it's a different thing. Anyway, I put my flip flops on, and where the bathroom was not far away, but there was let's call it a big group of people, 10 or 12 people, quiet, just chilling out, have some food and some drinks. And so I'm walking around them, and they have a little dog. And the dog starts barking at me, starts going rah, 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 rah. And they calm the dog down, and I'm like, I just want to go for a pee and get back to sleep. So I did that. I came back so not relaxed, like so awake. What should have just been an easy, let's just get up and go to the loo and come back. So my $5 room, I'm not sort of waving that around like a badge of honor. Like this is, it was fine. Do you know what I mean? But it was, I need a room with a bathroom, preferably.
Oh yeah, but okay, but I think one thing that we wanna highlight here for the hotelier is coming back to 7.1 or 7.4. I think if you have 2 reviews, as we said last week, and one is a 5 and a 1, you kind of go down to a 2.5. So it's important for small hoteliers to get as many good reviews as a base, so that any kind of bad reviews will kind of impact your score, but will not ruin your reputation. I mean, if you go over that's a 7.4 and it has 63 reviews, the Woodland, right?
Yes.
You move over to 71, and
Treebo.
they have 34 reviews, right? So always give it your best shot.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, there's obviously and this is another topic for another episode on how you can improve your reputation. So we won't go into that just now. But let me get back on track. So, as a consumer, going to Google or going to Facebook, going to Trivago in this case, it's very clear to see what the options are, what properties there are in the region, the geographic location. But if you look at this one here, Span Executive, it's a 7.8, good hotel, and there's a £25 price there on Expedia. Let's go to 7.8, which is the City Hotel. Normally £74, now 64, available on Scoosh. This one here, hotels.com. Notice that in the 3-star category here on Trivago, every single property, Expedia, and hotels.com.
Hotel.com, yeah.
What's Siva doing here? Siva, why aren't you watching? He's messaging me. Can you tell Siva? Anyway, hi Siva, namaskar. Now, do you see how I got booking.com for the Woodland?
Yeah.
Right? So now, by contrast, let me now apply 5-star as a filter and take off the 3-star filter. Okay, there's a few less properties in Pune. And let me now go back to the list view rather than map view and look at this. The default in Trivago is always lowest price, which is why I like to use it. I didn't mention it before. I just said I prefer Trivago. I prefer Trivago for that reason. They're a nice, clean platform. The visualization is very clean, and the default is always the lowest price. And in this case, actually, this is quite interesting. Conrad, which is I think it's a Hilton brand. It's the direct website is clearly highlighted. So I love this from the hotelier's perspective. You have a website. You have a booking engine. You probably don't pay 15% commission for every direct booking, like you might be paying for OTA commissions. But look at this, an Expedia asset. So hotels.com is actually the lowest price here at 114. So the lowest price is highlighted. But what I want to also, the point I'd like to make is that the hotel's direct channel, the hotel website, is very clearly highlighted. And as a hotelier, if you have the best price, doesn't actually mean the lowest, but the best price, and no one is offering a lower price, then Trivago really surfaces this. And I don't know, Fabian, you're in Singapore. Do people know about Trivago?
Trivago is, I think Meta in itself is not fully understood in the industry. And I think it has to do with the fact that all of a sudden the guys that normally do pricing now have to talk about meta search bidding, right? Which is typically a thing that you do in marketing.
Exactly.
So it kind of falls in the middle because the marketing guys go like, hang on one second, I have nothing to do with this.
Yes.
Right? This is completely out of my remit. Just because we go Google doesn't mean we now do Meta. And the other brigade, the revenue brigade, will say like, hang on one second, Meta didn't hear about, but has to do something with bidding. That's not my stuff. That has to go to the fellas in marketing.
Yeah, I think the CPA models, cost per acquisition, in other words, paying a commission per booking, is clearly understood and easy. But Kayak, for example, and Trivago are primarily CPC models. And that's where hotels understand a cost per click, but a cost per click does not guarantee a booking. So I now need to think about clicks and conversion, and then it all adds up to a overall cost for bookings. And I think that's where
you might or might not get, right?
Exactly.
I fully agree.
Exactly.
PA, very straightforward. You pay, you got the booking.
Yeah.
Done.
So,
right, regardless of how many people looked.
Yeah. So meta search is something. The big four, to be clear: Google, Trivago, TripAdvisor, and Kayak, and there are many more coming up. So just like the OTAs are investing heavily in not just online but offline marketing, TV ads, etc. Trivago in the UK, in London, particularly, you go to any subway, the tube, you'll see ads for Trivago everywhere. There's TV ads. In Brazil, in Australia, they're investing heavily in offline marketing to build that. They want to be the starting point of that customer journey in terms of finding the ideal property. However, let's go back to the question we were talking about before in terms of how can I offer the best price and what solutions can help. So let's start by visibility. Meta search we covered in terms of how I see Trivago and also Google as meta search platforms. However, your direct website, and again, we can do a whole other episode just on direct bookings. But what I'd like to say is a couple of things. Make it very easy.
Let me check in before.
Yeah.
How can people get on Meta?
Simple. There are many different ways, and your PMS provider can connect you to meta search. Not everyone, but there are definitely, and as we talk about small hotels, there are nice cloud PMSs who connect to Meta directly, or a lot of PMSs have integration partners who connect to Meta. It could be your booking engine, could be your CRS. There are agencies that offer this service. So there are many ways. Yeah, there are many ways, which is a good thing, and also potentially a bad thing because it can be confusing. But in terms of your direct channel, the website, the booking experience should be clean and simple to understand. If your mother or your grandmother, that's a test I like to apply on all technology, but particularly with a booking system, an online booking engine. For us, who are self-proclaimed tech nerds, to make a booking is not a challenge. It's not a test.
You still go to Google, man. You still go to Google when nobody's watching.
I tell you, my wife goes to Google, and then I get upset why she doesn't know where she finally booked. Actually, can I tell you a quick story? Actually, I just looked at the clock. I'll save it for later.
Yeah, cool.
It was about the booking experience. But now, look, take inspiration from the OTAs. If you do have limited inventory, make that clear to the customer that you have, only 3 rooms left. Give them alternative dates, for example, rather than, this is my pet peeve. My number one pet peeve for all booking engines, I'm talking about hotel booking engines now, I'm calling you guys out. Any booking engine, when the customer types in dates and checks for availability and gives the answer no availability, in other words, the customer has to go back and search again. It's 2017, guys. If there's no availability, offer another hotel, offer alternative dates. Don't make me, the customer, go back and search again. That's lazy, that's careless, that's a poor user experience, in my humble opinion. But anyway, and talking about, let's say, the price value topic, make it very clear. Make it very clear that whatever your price is on your direct channel is the same or better, whatever your pricing strategy may be, and all of the other major booking portals. And if it's the same, make a very clear statement on the value proposition of booking directly. We are going to give you a lovely basket of fruit, like we sometimes have in the properties in Malaysia. We've stayed at a lovely basket of fruit, some nice fresh bottles of water. I stayed in Cologne. I was in Cologne yesterday, and a minibar in that particular room. It was lovely. I drank all of the sparkling water and citron, some kind of lemon soft drink. I left the beers, but that was lovely. And so it doesn't have to cost you a bomb to offer the guest some kind of extra special touch which they wouldn't otherwise get if they booked through the OTA.
Yeah, you say that. We went to Melbourne the other week, and a friend of mine booked direct, right? Because the big booking engine said, if you book direct, you get a free drink at reception.
Okay.
Right? And then when he arrived, if you're an Expedia XYZ or a Booking.com Genius traveler, you get the same thing. And then they put this board out there and say, free drinks for all of our guests. And you kind of go like, okay, I booked direct because you're telling me I get something extra. I now come, and you're essentially telling me, ta-da, everybody gets it.
Yeah, it's a limited value proposition. So anyway, be clear about that. And you asked Fabian before, who can help you? I'm sorry, Zori also asked, what solutions are there? Now, I'm not going to mention brands, but I said before, your PMS, your CRS, your booking engine, there are agencies out there that can help and assist. However, it's obvious that in terms of online digital marketing, the challenge used to always be, and I guess, I'll say used to, in terms of SEO, page one, to be on page one of Google organically, forget about it, particularly in the hotel space. The Google AdWords has really been replaced by Google Hotel Price Ads. So you can go to Google Hotel Price Ads. In fact, for those people who are actually tuning in live rather than just listening in via the podcast, if you just type in Google Hotel Price Ads, there is a nice Google website which explains what Hotel Price Ads is. Click on Find a Partner, and you can see all the different PMSs, CRSs, booking engines, agencies, etc., that can offer you integration to Google Hotel Ads. So that's available and easy today if you're already aware of it. But to summarize, so Meta is your mate. Yeah, Meta search and Meta is your mate. It gives you visibility to your direct channel. And if you look at Meta and think, it's too confusing, I don't really like it or understand it, that's okay. Your hotel will already be on Meta. It just means it'll just be bookable by the OTAs or promoted by the OTAs. Give your customers a very clear reason to book directly and be inspired by OTA techniques. So it's rather than being such a daunting task, you give up and say, oh, look, this is all too hard. It's not too hard at all. And if you are talking to those suppliers that I mentioned before, and I'm telling you from first-hand experience, I've sold PMSs for more than 10 years, and RMSs and CRSs. So I know these pitch decks, I know these value statements inside out. So if, let's say, you talk to your PMS supplier about hotel tech, and I heard that Meta's my mate, we need a good booking engine, we also have a small restaurant and bar. So this is not obviously exactly the pitch deck that I've used, but the point here is the PMS will explain digital marketing, distribution, hotel technology from their perspective. And no surprise, their perspective is that PMS is the center of the world. We manage all the different booking engines. We've got interfaces to you name it. Operational. Yeah, exactly. Operational efficiency. We're a one-stop shop. There's some PMSs still out there that claim to be, that really force the fact that one stop is better than best in class. So anyway, but then you go and talk to your RMS supplier and say, oh, so this is how can you help us? And the RMS is obviously the center of the world. Surprise, surprise. And we produce decisions. We use big data and give you actionable insights. And the PMS, which we talked with the PMS yesterday, they're a little bubble down here, and Meta's up there somewhere. And they've got all these different bubbles and arrows and lightning bolts in a slide deck. And so, and there's a lot of very, very valuable information from each of these different suppliers, but the perspective is very different. So if you now look at a channel manager or CRS and talk about technology, and you probably will see something where the CRS is the center of the world, and the buzzwords of distribution and loyalty, digital connectivity. And yes, Meta is still there, booking engine is still there, PMS is still there. It's a tiny little bubble on the deck. So it's obvious and logical that you'll have 3 different conversations with 3 different types of suppliers. And the conversation, while speaking about the same types of products and solutions, will be pitched from a different perspective, right? So
it's okay to be confused.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So who's in the middle? Who is it, Erik? Who is the center of the universe?
You mean what is the optimal way?
CRS, PMS, RMS,
the guest,
TTS, LRS.
The guest is in the middle. It's the guest. Hey, while we've been talking,
politically correct, yeah.
Well, no, I really think we think about the guest first. Everything else is simple. Honestly, I mean, it might sound cliche. I mean it honestly and sincerely. If we just think about the entire guest experience as the first point, at the first step, and then the second step and the third step, and go back to step 1. If we're constantly thinking about the guest experience, everything else is kind of easy. It's my opinion.
I think it's noteworthy out there for everyone, even chains, even luxury properties, small hoteliers. The fact is, you can set up your distribution landscape 3 ways to Christmas, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember, Erik, when we were back at Tune Hotels, and we kind of played theoretically out how could we take 50 hotels and connect them without a CRS?
Yes.
Do we actually need a PMS, considering it's a budget hotel, right? Or should we just go through a channel manager and then pop it into a data warehouse and from there manage it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that conversation. Hey, by the way, sorry, keep going. Sorry, I cut you off there. Go ahead.
It really depends how you want to set up and how your complexities you want to have in there, right? You don't need the complexities to get started. Every time you put a complexity in there also means that you need a bit more time to actually deal with those complexities. Even if you're understanding it, or if it's just a trying to work with it. If somebody tells you, oh yeah, we are a CRM system and we're at the center of everything, and but for that you need a database with 400 billion records in order to work it, and then we sift through it. You kind of go like, okay, I've got 10 rooms, and even if I'm 100% occupied for the last 10 years, that's not even going to stretch 1 million.
Yeah, and that's something else. That's something else that the acronym or the solution defined as CRM. You ask 10 different people, and not just in hotels. CRM are solutions that apply to industry. So next time you're at a dinner party, if you start the conversation, just say, quick show of hands, please. Who knows what CRM means? Great. Customer relationship management, or you might have other. And can anyone describe what CRM actually means? You'll get 10 different definitions, most likely. And it's the same with CRS. CRS has different meanings to different people. That's another topic. Hey, Fabian, while we're talking, while we've been talking, Jeet Singh sent me he clicked something and his hand came up. So I quickly messaged him to say, hey, do you have a question? He said that on Zoom, he's watching us via Zoom. It made his PC real slow. And then I said, just go to Facebook Live. He said he's trying to connect. He's in China though, and Facebook's real slow. So he's using a VPN. He's using alternative means to connect. But we just need to think about our audience in China, because Facebook and Zoom aren't cutting it. But anyway, thanks.
Cool.
Thanks.
Send us through what works in China.
Yeah, thanks for listening in, Jeet. Now, last week you did a demystifying buzzword of machine learning, which I really liked, in terms of duck. What were the other ones?
Duck, no duck, no duck,
right.
duck.
Yeah.
No,
so
duck,
now,
what is it? It's a duck.
Exactly. And so this week, I'd like to demystify the buzzword or the concept of real time.
Wow.
Demystify real time in terms of, it's a question that I've personally had many times over the years. Do you do real time revenue management? Is our distribution real time? And there are solutions more and more today in terms of rate shopping that are real time. Fabianski, what does real time mean to you, the RM professional, the Uber RM? What does real time mean to you?
Well, that's the whole point, right? If I go real time, I want to be able to click that. It brings something up.
What are you showing me there?
That's just Instagram, right?
Okay.
And I want to look for something, or I want to touch something, right? And all of a sudden, it's there. That's for me real time. It's when I text you right now and say, where are you? And I say, Erik, right? And I'll text you that right now.
Yeah. WhatsApp?
It should have arrived, WhatsApp. And it should have arrived on your site already. Otherwise, why are we talking real time? No, this one is not real time. Or you should pay for your internet.
Did you message me?
Yeah, I did message you. You might have changed your number.
I haven't got. Oh, you know what? You're right. I've got two phones, and yeah, your message the other one. Anyway, but so no. Yeah.
So real time for me means, and it goes, and then it's done. Give it a couple of seconds. Give it a couple of minutes, especially on mobile. Have you actually tried and waited for your browser for more than 10 seconds? If it doesn't respond to 10 seconds, you go mental. You kind of go like, oh my God, what's happening? Internet connection not right, phone broken.
Yeah, I told you I was in Cologne yesterday and traveling between Köln and Bonn. I went between 4G and 3G. And did 3G not absolutely drive me crazy? But I remember 3G was actually quite okay. It was a big step up.
Oh, 3G back in the day was
PRS or whatever. Now when I went,
do you remember LGT? No. What was it? There was this weird thing in between.
What's happening here? I think we've just been logged out. Hang on a second. What's happening here? Share. Do you still see my screen?
Yeah, I can still see it. I can see you. I can see your earphones and your Nike shirt.
You have been logged in. Messenger. Okay, I don't know what that means. That's really strange.
Okay, we're not.
So
I can still see.
You can, okay.
Yeah.
So you can still see my desktop.
Yeah, I can still see everything, even on live. All good.
Strange meshes. Okay, so real time. Now, what I'd like to talk about in terms of, I want to put real time into the context of hotel, online distribution, hotel technology, and from different perspectives. So from a small hotel's perspective, they may not have a PMS. In many cases, they don't have a PMS. They may not even have a website. And there are obviously different extremes. What we talk about as a small hotel might be anything under 100 rooms. Or some other people might say, well, anything under 50 rooms is really small. And the story goes on. So, and what we learned last week was that from Booking.com's data, many properties, 70% of all lodging establishments globally update their pricing less frequently than every 2 weeks. So don't even think about the concept of real time if you're not even updating pricing within every 2 week cycle. So whether there's a PMS or not, they might be using let's say a CRS or a channel manager. And then ultimately for those pricing updates to get to the OTA, there are many potential links in the chain. And so if you think about, let's say just an update from let's just think about going to the source, logging into the extranet of Booking.com, Expedia, Agoda, HRS, whatever, logging into the extranet, updating the pricing directly in the extranet for your hotel, clicking save, opening up your new tab, looking, refreshing the browser to see that new pricing update. It won't be instant. Usually between 5 and 15 minutes is when you'll see that pricing update hit the front end from the consumer experience on the OTA side. So people used to ask me a lot about how fast pricing updates are. And I would explain using this concept, whether it was a slide or not, to say, look, as a good rule of thumb, from your PMS to your CRS, and the same applies between updates between your PMS and your channel manager. Just think about, let's say 10 minutes as a reasonable update. Then between your channel manager and the OTA, allow another 10 minutes. And depending on how cyclical the updates are between your PMS and your channel manager, that could be every 10 minutes, or it could be once every 2 weeks. So I would say, look, as a good rule of thumb, think about within half an hour from when you update it in your source system, let's say PMS, those pricing updates should hit the OTA or your booking engine or GDS. But then it depends on the environment. So I'm talking about a small hotel environment. But if you look at a large hotel environment, a large property or a regional chain, you usually have a lot more technology involved, a lot more layers. And the specific layers I'm talking about are the revenue management system and the PMS. Then, of course, the distribution hub, which is the CRS. Sometimes a CRS will actually white label a channel manager. So it's not even one distribution layer, it's actually a couple more layers there, exactly 2 layers, and then the OTA. So back in my RM days, we used to do, the technology would be updating pricing 4 times a day. So the very first update in the morning was for the next 365 days, 3 more updates during the day for the next 90 days. So you could say every 6 hours, pricing and decisions, restrictions, I mean, could be updated. But today, I think there's a lot of new cloud RMSs out there that are doing much more frequent updates. Is that accurate to say, Fabian, about every 5 minutes, or am I talking?
No. I think Logic is one of the newer ones, with a couple of smaller ones that have popped up around Europe. Europe has been a strong beating ground for RMSs now.
Yeah.
We're all doing real time. It's the problem that you sometimes run into problems with the legacy systems that hotels have,
exactly.
i.e. PMSs. And it is a bit the PMSs stuff, because all of a sudden, listen, RMSs can push into a channel manager, into a CRS, and into a PMS simultaneously.
Correct.
Right.
That's
but
what the slide says, right? Center of the world, the RMS.
Correct. From a rate push perspective, you can actually argue that it is, because the pricing decision is taken in the RMS. Mm-hmm. And then if you click that button, it goes everywhere. Now, the advantage here is it's a timing issue. Yeah. So I push to the channel manager at the same time I push to the PMS. So I'm not pushing PMS, crossing my fingers that the PMS will then push it onto the channel manager, crossing my fingers that the channel manager will then push it onto the OTA. Yeah. That's, I think, where I've done heaps improvements. Mm-hmm. But again, can the other party deal with it? Because then you're talking server loads. Now, what if you're a big hotel and I really want to push real time, and I send every 5 seconds, I send a new push or pull notification, mm-hmm. right? Your receptionist will go bonkers trying to check in and check out people.
Exactly.
So, well, then you have the question, do I need real time? Well, in certain cases.
Yes.
If some hotels only change their prices every 2 weeks,
yes.
Does it really? Maybe it's because they're not on real time. We have not considered that in our survey, Erik. Maybe they have pressed that button, but it takes 2 weeks to update.
Well, the other thing, if we go back to, I'm not going to. Oh, we have some questions here. In a second.
Yes, we have one from Jeet and one from.
Who is this?
Thank you, Neha.
Oh, Neha.
Have a good.
Thank you,
Neha,
guys.
have a good weekend.
Chat so far. Need to rush for me. Okay, cool. Oh, thanks. How polite.
Thank you.
I love that.
And we have a question from Jeet.
Can you read it to me, please? Or can
yes.
You okay.
I'm a loyalty marketer, so for us, it's always about bringing the members back to the hotel website. That's fantastic. Driving direct.
Members of what? Members of what? Starbucks? Or what are we talking about here?
Most probably loyalty members. They are loyalty members back to their
Of a hotel brand? Is that what we're talking about?
Do you want to listen to the question, or you want
Sorry,
to
go ahead.
give the first sentence already go?
Yeah, sorry.
But we still face competition from OTAs like Ctrip and Booking.com. Mostly our members come back to us saying they can get better rates on those websites. So what do you think we can do from a distribution point of view so that this is not happening?
Well, firstly, Jeet, have a look at episode 1 from last week, because Fabian did lazy pricing and had a very nice schema. Actually, no, it wasn't last week. It was a webinar we did with...
No, it was last week. We also did last week.
Okay. But okay, so now Jeet's question is very very interesting. It's something that we think about all the time. I don't know if we want to get into that in detail right now, but let's talk about it at some level, because I know. Well, let me just start. Let me answer this way. If you think that, well, let's talk about, you mentioned Ctrip, right? Ctrip are very open to all of their hotel partners, whether you're a Hilton or a small independent, that they will absolutely sell your property at the lowest price available. Now, if the hotel themselves are giving Ctrip the lowest price, fantastic. That's the price they will sell. If they happen to source your property for the same dates, the same room type, the same type of product restrictions, etc., it's flexible or it's advanced purchase, and they get that from GTA, Hotel Beds, MoMA, whoever, that's what they'll do. Now, from the consumer's experience, that the person booking on Ctrip, who I think are now becoming Trip.com, but anyway, if they're booking on Ctrip, it's a Ctrip experience. It's a Ctrip consumer experience. Now, in the back end, if Ctrip have sourced that from who cares where, but the consumer has the lowest or the best price or the best opportunity, that's great for the consumer. Now, the hotel needs to obviously look at their contracts out there with wholesalers and monitor this, but that's what Ctrip are doing. And now, I think I've even heard of one instance where Ctrip are actually sourcing an Agoda mobile closed user group loyalty offering and putting that. That's an extreme example. But what's your take on that for our friend Jeet?
I just double checked the pricing, and we didn't do it last week, so I'm going to whack it in for next week.
Okay. Cool.
Just to update that. Yeah, it's a tough one. The tough part is that you have guys with a lot of pockets and deep pockets that are happily going out and taking a hit on stuff. Mm-hmm. Then you have a distribution landscape that allows offline to be sold online, mm-hmm. right? Then you have a Ctrip versus an Agoda versus a Booking.com. So it's essentially not how do I get the guest to this hotel, but the question is how do I get the guest to book with me versus Expedia, regardless of which hotel they book. Mm-hmm. And you're kind of caught in the crossfire because you're wanting to do the right thing, Jeet. You want to bring people with loyalty back through to the website, so to have them direct. Now, how good are your hotels on Meta? How good are they understanding rate parity? I mean, we're going to talk about rate parity in a second. Mm-hmm. In a sense that nobody likes rate parity, but then if you take rate parity away, everybody says we need to have rate parity. Mm-hmm. You're going up against the mountain, mm-hmm. I would say, but there are tools out there where you can help the consumer once they come to your website. There's two parts to the pot, right? One is they need to come to your website first of all. Yeah. Right? If they don't come to your website, then it's anyways a lost game. So it's about driving traffic mm-hmm. in the first instance. The second part is about then converting those guys, mm-hmm. right? And that's when we look at booking engines and the items that you have mentioned before, and how can I actually influence the guest through persuasive or through urgent messaging, through, I saw the little price check that there was on the side, through alternative dates. But equally, how can I keep the guy focused on what they're actually supposed to do when they come into a booking engine, which is book the hotel. It's not like, oh, I can see the finishing line and all I got to do is like, oh, Erik, would you like a pint of Guinness before you go through the finishing line? And you kind of go, oh, that's nice. And then you're back on your road and somebody says, hey, how about a bacon bath? Right?
Yes, please.
And we sometimes try and cram so much into that the guest will go, and there's another screen. And yet there's another screen. And the conflicting thing is when airlines do that, we kind of seem like, okay, yeah, that's the way airlines do it, right? The moment we go to hotels, we kind of go like, we don't want this.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And hotels have become the last part of the food chain, right? Yes. We're the most important part of the food chain because that's where you can make or break an experience. Mm-hmm. You can argue you can do that across all, but a good night's sleep is anything everybody wants. It's not like you're booking a hotel and say like, I really want to stay in that $5 hotel in Cambodia where Erik stayed because I really want to have that overnight experience, right?
Yeah.
No, you go there to say, actually, I have so much going on. That is a kind of haven of where I can chill, where I can let my hair down, where you can do whatever you want, but it's integral part. But we're making it very difficult for the consumer. And if we're putting the guest first, as you said earlier, it helps us look at it from the lens of the consumer. So, Jeet, my first thing would be, how many people do you actually get? What are you doing to drive people to those websites?
Can you
and
measure
if
it?
you have enough people, if it can measure it, Google Analytics or any kind of other publicly available tools. And once you have that data, understand where you lose those people. If it's purely a rate thing, then you have a problem in your distribution landscape. Then you have a problem distributing stuff, right? If it goes through members rate, there's nothing stopping you offering member rates that are outside of rate parity agreements, that are outside of anything else, because essentially I ask you for your telephone number. I ask, Erik, you like red or blue?
Yes.
Oh, Erik likes red.
I do actually.
Fantastic. Now Erik is part of the red club. So now I can offer Erik whatever I want because he's part of the cool red club. The blue guys will not get that, but Erik will get it.
I think what you're saying is it's so easy to opt in to be a member, but why aren't you doing that on your booking engine as well? Why isn't there one click?
That's my point. One click to say, would you like a newspaper? Sorry, would you like a newsletter? Yes. Give me your email address. Or not even that. What's your first name? My first name is
Secret
Erik.
Deals, members only rates. Exactly.
Easy.
Yeah. So, Jeet, we can follow up with you offline if you'd like, or on LinkedIn, however you prefer. Now, Fabian, we're actually at the 53-minute mark. I'm going to jump ahead. I wanted to talk about big chains. Let's not worry about what real time means for big chains. But what's caught your eye, Fabian, this week in the news? Changing tact. Yeah.
What caught my eyes was the Britain's again competing watchdog investigate hotel booking sites. And that's an interesting one. A couple of years ago, they did the similar thing where they actually looked at competitive law, and therefore in Europe, rate parity was deemed
it's illegal.
Unlawful.
It's illegal in France, Italy, and Germany, Sweden.
Correct.
And soon more.
Because what it says is it's essentially price fixing. Right? That's what it is. So now they're taking it a step further and say, hang on one second.
And collusion.
And collusion, absolutely. So what they're saying now is that, hang on one second, those sites, the consumer has the right to get the best deal for them, right? To make the best decision. Yet those sites, based on their ranking, how they influence the result and how much commission they charge. So you can pay extra commission and you're getting a better placement on the site. Now that's really interesting because now the consumer will not get the best deals. The consumer will get the best deals that are decided by what is best for the OTA.
Well, it's a grey area,
So
I think, because there are filters, right? You can sort by price, you can sort by popularity. I think what you're saying there is that the algorithms are tuned towards the OTA's profitability or revenue objectives, less in a primary instance, whereas the consumers search for best product is not necessarily first and foremost in the algo.
I think it comes down to a clear and accurate presentation of enabling. There's this thing called the paradox of choice. And what it means is if we're making it too confusing for you to make a decision, you will make the wrong decision.
Okay.
Right? In that case, if you look at some of those OTA websites, it's incredible how they have started adding complexities in different colors and pop-up things and urgency messaging. I know that they had a case in the UK where they had to stop this 3 rooms left or 2 booked just now because it was a blatant lie.
Okay.
And essentially they could not prove that there was 3 rooms left, and therefore influencing a consumer or putting pressure on a consumer. That was based on bogus information.
Well, what I love about 3 rooms booked just now, well, of course, but for which dates? Not for the dates I'm looking at right now, but it could be 3 rooms booked for next week, and but it absolutely creates stress, anxiety, and urgency. And they clearly have got the technology and the ability to A/B test and test constantly test. So it's obviously optimized for the best conversion. And
I mean, you're working in tech, I work in tech. So we sometimes go and research cities just to look at, okay, where's the hotel? So that you prepare yourself for a presentation. But I'm still getting slammed with emails from Booking.com, Expedia, so on and so forth, telling me about that me having had a look at Brisbane for any day in the future. And now, when do you want to go to Brisbane? By the way, can we offer you flights as well to Brisbane? And it's forget everybody else. Let's all move to Brisbane.
But you must have registered with your email address. I never do. I don't.
No, I'm starting to go into the incognito stuff because it just it's the same thing with remarketing, right? Remarketing kind of is they're gonna throw so much remarketing on you. You could be dead, and you'll still get your computer will still live on and get that toothbrush that you once wanted to buy. For the rest of your life, you get hit with it. I still get things from New York for Phantom of the Opera. That was 5 years ago. I looked at that. And I should clear my cookies and stuff like that, but come on. So essentially, if that comes out and says Britain's competition watchdog is right and says there's trouble, that would be great for the industry. That wouldn't be too great for the OTAs. But it brings us also back to rate parity, yes or no, right? You have people arguing, I don't want rate parity, so we can do all of ourselves. And then they kind of go like, oh yeah, but now that we're giving more discounts on our own website, people are still booking at the OTAs. And then it was just replaced with the favorite nation clause, which again is
most favored nation having the same offer. I think it's different in different markets. So France, forget about any kind of discussion about rate parity. They legislated. It's now illegal for any hotel to have an agreement with an online travel agency that has any kind of wording of rate parity. Okay, that happened more than a year ago now. Italy's the same. Germany's the same. Sweden's the same. Not me, but one of my colleagues was in Copenhagen last month, and this topic of rate parity came up, and we had people there in the event from Germany and from France, and they were sharing about what rate parity. That was 2 years ago. No, it's illegal now, and they were gobsmacked. They were shocked. They were like,
Australia is all about rate parity. I mean, I had a conversation with the GM last week, and he said, yeah, Fabian, don't forget, we need to maintain rate parity. I mean, rate parity is great. You kind of, why is it great?
Yeah.
If I buy a Sony TV at Sony, it's more expensive than if I go to a Quartz.
Amazon or something, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So
Hey, and speaking of Amazon, do you want to do more about this what caught your eye, or shall we go to startups?
Let's go startups.
Okay, so I think Roxy is a startup that I have been looking at, and shout out to Evan Davies, who actually mentioned Roxy to me last week, and went over. Basically, Evan said to me, "Roxy's really cool." I thought, "What is it?" Okay, it's this device you have in the guest room that you communicate with via voice, like these speech-enabled devices. And I said to him, "That's great," but for me, that I was like, "That's just tech for the sake of tech." And look, I'm not a person that communicates via voice. I've got friends that do. I communicate to humans or animals with voice. Everything else I interact with my thumbs or my keyboard, right? So I thought, well, I'm personally not a potential user of this. However, looked at it more closely, actually spoke with the founder, and it's amazing. Essentially, think of it as an in-room hub. Yeah. Now, from a technology perspective, the stack, it's an Android device. It has its own proprietary natural language processing or speech recognition they've built themselves. In terms of the AI is their own proprietary AI, and the founders are the CEO is ex-Microsoft. Then they've got Amazon people. So the tech lead, I think it's the tech lead for Alexa, and then another engineer for Amazon are the three co-founders of Roxy. And so essentially you have this device, Android device, with speech recognition and artificial intelligence. And then the interaction is basically to replace those compendiums you have on the desk. And not just that, replace the alarm clock, replace the telephone very soon, and essentially create operational efficiency. So the guest can say, room service menu, please. Do you have a burger? BLT. Essentially interact via voice. And so today, that's what it's doing today. It's a voice-enabled device where guests can ask for a recommendation for a nearby restaurant. Remember we spoke
So it's a virtual concierge.
Yes, absolutely. But that's what it's doing today. Now, all of this data that it's gathering, as guests interact, and it starts to build up data and habits and attributes per guest. Now, imagine you start sharing that data or having that data across multiple brands. And so, Fabian, you're usually having a bottle of, you're always drinking the sparkling water, or you're always ordering sparkling water. And then the next time you stay at a property in that group, there's proactive service there, where the particular sparkling water you always drink is always there for you. Or, in other words, not in a creepy way, but in a proactive service way, you have technology now that is facilitating your personal habits, your personal preferences. So in the age of personalization and guest experience, this particular device I think is amazing because, again, think of it, it's an Android operating device. So what about your point of sale? Whether it's Micros or whatever point of sale you're using, they run on Android devices. So why not have the room service menu? Why not have the bar menu, obviously a guest version of it, there on the touch screen? So not just voice interaction, but touch screen. And I can actually say, click, 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 as if I was the point of sale user. I'm now ordering from the F&B outlets using the same technology that the hotel already has. And how much more efficient is that going to be? What do you think?
It sounds nothing else than Alexa to me.
Exactly. It's Alexa concept, but for hotel environment. You're exactly right. And
yeah, I think it'll take a couple of years, and you can argue that. I believe one of the things that I strongly believe in is that you will have your own little virtual assistant in your pocket, right? It's Erik's companion, right?
Well, you're talking about the device, right?
Yeah, no, but I'm talking. Do you remember we had that conversation that essentially the device is an extension of your own personality, right? So that becomes important if Erik's virtual assistant, let's call her Ashley, right?
Not Roxy.
Ashley, no.
Yeah.
Here's my point.
Okay.
Erik travels, and now Erik comes to the hotel, and Ashley talks to Roxy. That's where it becomes really cool, right?
Oh.
That's where Erik is on the way up, and Ashley tells Roxy, by the way, Erik is coming up. Can you put on the mood light, right? Or can you put that song on because he's hearing it on his headphones right now?
This is his SoundCloud stream.
Yeah. Like, let's say you have your earplugs in and you're listening to whatever music you're listening to, and Roxy knows from Ashley that you're currently listening to it. So when you open the door, that song is actually playing.
That's you just gave me a little bit of goosebumps. Just that's a service magic moment. When my digital world is not impacted and affected when I reach the hotel room, because they've got some TV screen this big. So for many years now, I no longer even turn on the TV. But no, that's cool. That's very cool.
And that will go further and further. It becomes very important when Sabrina and I bring Rafa to Bali, right? All we're doing is every time we're going back and we are walking towards McDonald's to have a coffee there and then do our thing back, because we have like literally 25 minutes. Now, can you imagine my Ashley would already ping McDonald's, Ronald, to say, by the way, we're 3 minutes out, orders are ready for me, pays for me already. So by the time I arrive, I have my usual stuff and I don't have to wait in the queue. I don't have to have cash with me to do payment. So that 25 minutes where I spent 10 minutes standing by myself to order the coffee has now been 25 minutes with the family. So you could use it whenever you want, if it's a Roxy or something else, but that's why I'm believing that there will be a device that will also protect you from Roxys that want to talk to you. And Ashley will say, sorry, talk to the hand because he's busy on a phone call.
Yeah,
right?
well, actually, you just reminded me.
He's on a diet.
Yes.
Don't give me the 2-for-1 drinks here, right?
He only eats once a day, exactly. But Roxy, they've got also this open API. So PMSs.
Even better.
Exactly. PMSs, all that content that the hotel already has. And what I didn't mention, it's curated content. So the hotel can already, remember that conversation last week where the receptionist didn't have any suggestions about near my restaurant because they live 2 hours away. All that curated content put into the device, but then the device also has the ability, for example, the example that was given to me was looking for an Italian restaurant. So the hotel has 3 different Italian restaurants they recommend nearby. But then Roxy has the ability to get from, and also from Google, other Italian restaurants, for example, and show rating, direct proximity to where you are. So really opening up that publicly available data in a nice, let's call it device and voice interaction. I like it, even though
I think it's a great start. Now think about Roxy then saying, Erik, how much do you want to spend tonight on Italian? Oh, $20. Oh, what do you fancy, pasta or pizza? Oh, prefer pizza. And then Roxy through APIs would push that out and say, hey, I've got Erik staying. Erik has $20 that he wants to get rid of tonight on pizza. Make me an offer, right? So, and then Roxy will say...
Integration with OpenTable.
Yeah, and then essentially Roxy will say, Erik, I put out your $20 request, right, within the 1 kilometer mark. By the way, those guys will offer you a free Guinness with your pizza.
Yeah,
right.
You had me at free, and Guinness
sweet.
was nice.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I love it. I love it. Yeah.
Now let's talk about our startup here, hey?
Which one? Oh, this little 2 smart fellas.
The smart fella startup that will create that kind of environment for you. Your digital assistants connecting with the world.
Well, we've gone over the 1 hour mark. We've gone just over. You know, I like to try and keep things. We started off with a conversation from Zori on what small hotels do and what are the tools that are available. Let's wind up with top 5 tips for small hotels. Fabian,
cool. So,
over to you.
Sorry. Top tips for small hotels. I mean, Erik was right. It's pretty much about, you got to be visible first of all for your price to matter, right? But there is technology out there today that is not scary, that you can use, that you can trial. You can look at startups, you can look at existing. It is there for you to make your life easier, better, more convenient, and drive you more money.
Exactly. You don't need to be a big chain CRS or a franchise for Marriott,
Absolutely.
Hilton. It's there today for small hotels.
Yeah. Don't lock yourself into long contracts, right? If somebody wants to slap you around with a 3-year contract, say thank you very much. But in 3 years' time, it'll be like the iPhone X coming out and it's already outdated.
You know, I spoke to a friend of ours, I won't mention his name, from London, ex-colleague from IHG days, who is also a fan of the show. So I'm not going to mention names, but I think you might know who I'm talking about. He was looking at a new hotel business, and they had signed a 5-year contract for their PMS. One of these UK all-in-one PMSs. I'm not going to mention the brand. Now, 5 years, that's 2 different life cycles of let's say, technology integration. Within 5 years, platforms or products will come and go within that 5 years. And then obviously this particular product does, let's say, PMS well, terrible on booking engine, terrible on distribution, terrible on blah, blah, blah. So clearly that 5-year contract, whoever signed it, kind of messed them up because...
I talked to somebody last week, 3-year contract exclusivity.
What does that mean?
I was like, if you use, like, let's say you got a CRS, right? So you could say, okay, because it's a crap contract, I'll just buy another CRS, bite the bullet, and then therefore use everything. So essentially the contract stipulates is you can't play those things with me. You got to do that, right?
Ridiculous.
So it's crazy. Yeah. But yeah, don't lock yourself into long contracts. Exactly as you just mentioned it. The tech will be outdated. Blockchain will take it all over. The chain will take it.
Next week, buzzword is you, blockchain.
Buzzword, that blockchain. Woo. So keep yourself updated. Meta is your mate. Understand Meta. Understand the new booking trends. Understand what's out there. And again, don't be afraid to trial those kind of things. You don't like it? It's a plug and play world. You get something else, right? But it's better than not doing anything.
Absolutely.
Now we're coming to the one thing which is important when you said value proposition. And for me, value proposition always had 2 things to it. If you look at Apple, and I always ask the question when I go to conferences, I ask people to raise their hands if they have an Apple product. I think you're an Apple guy, yeah?
Yeah.
So you have an Apple. Keep your hands up if you actually have 2 Apple devices. It might be correct. So you have more than 1 Apple device, correct?
Yeah.
Normally, if you ask people about Android, and especially something like a Samsung, you say, okay, you can take your hand down, Erik. And you ask them, so who has a Samsung? Oh, me. Can you leave your hand up if you have another Samsung device that is not a fridge, a washing machine, or an oven? And if you have a TV and you got the tablet for free, that doesn't count. Everybody goes down. So you have like 99% of people who have 1 device from Samsung, but once you're Apple, you kind of stay Apple.
Right. Yeah.
And what they're very good is they're very good at differentiating their products vertically and horizontally. So vertical means between their own product ranges. Horizontally means against other players in the industry. Now, for hotels, it's important because if you start and you have different room types, the first question that you're going to ask yourself is, what am I actually charging for, right? Between a single and a double and a twin, an exec versus a standard versus deluxe, whatever you call them, what am I charging for? If you have defined that, you have essentially defined that value proposition for that new room. You then say, okay, now that I know what I'm charging for, how much can I actually charge for it? And in some cases, you will say, okay, I could be charging for that, but actually I can't charge more than $1. So let's forget about it. So once you've done that, you do the same exercise horizontally against the room types of your competitors to understand what is my unique value proposition that I can take the guest experience and take it exactly to where the guests want to have.
Mm-hmm.
Last but not least, I think we said it earlier, depend who you talk to, there will be the heart of it.
It's okay to be confused, right?
It's okay to be confused, right? Yeah. The key thing is define that one thing that you actually want to achieve, yes. Right? If you have a booking engine, what is the one thing you want that booking engine to deliver?
Mm-hmm. What's the objective? Yeah.
What's the objective? And then forget about all the gimmicks that everybody will sell you. If your objective is, I want to drive conversions,
yes,
then every question you should hammer to that vendor is, how are you going to drive me more conversions? Okay, you're bringing in this price checking thing, right? How much more is that going to drive my conversion? Why haven't you tested it? If you're telling me you have that feature and I ask you how it helps me drive conversions, and you don't know how much it's actually driving the conversions?
Yes.
Well, it can't be that great of a feature, can it?
Agreed.
So
we have, I won't say welcome, but that's it for this week. Yeah, man. See you next week. You're in Italy. And
I'm in Italy.
All right. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao. Have a good weekend.
You too, man.